Last January, driving back from the feed store in Cumberland, I passed a man at the edge of a gas station lot on the 421. He had a sheet of plywood propped against a cinder block wall and a blue tarp, and he was studying it the way a carpenter studies a cut before he makes it. Not lost, not begging, thinking. I pulled over. What he showed me in the next 15 minutes, the way he had notched the corner posts, the way he had angled the tarp to channel water away from the sleeping space, the way he had lined the interior with flattened cardboard boxes, shingled so rain could not wick back up, I had seen before. Not in a tent, not in a YouTube video. On the back ridge of this farm, in a smokehouse my great-grandfather Ezra Combs built in 1923, with timber he cut himself and tin he traded for at a hardware store in Everts that does not exist anymore. The man in that parking lot did not know he was practicing 400 years of Appalachian knowledge. I am going to show you what he knew, what my family already knew, and what you are going to want to know before you need it. My name is Ruth Combs. My family has farmed the same hollow in Harlan County, Kentucky for 4 generations. The 2024 federal count documented 771,480 people experiencing homelessness in the United States. That was an 18% jump from the year before, and the highest number ever recorded since the government started counting in 2007. More than 250,000 of those people were sleeping completely unsheltered, on concrete, under bridges, in cars, or inside structures they built themselves for under $200 out of wood they found behind loading docks and plastic they pulled from dumpsters. Now, what I want to tell you today is not a sad story about those people. It is the story of a skill set that kept mountain families alive for 150 years before insulation came in a bag with a brand name on it. And it is alive right now, in those parking lots and vacant lots and creek bottoms, being reinvented by people who have no other choice. My grandmother Loretta was not rich in materials. She was rich in knowledge, and knowledge does not depreciate. Now, let me tell you what we are actually talking about. A wooden shipping pallet is 40 inches wide and 48 inches long, standard pine or mixed hardwood. Rough cut, full of old nail holes, weathered gray. They are everywhere, behind grocery stores, at loading docks outside warehouse retailers, stacked against the back walls of hardware stores from here to Lexington. Most people drive past them without a second thought. Before you touch one, you need to know 2 letters. This is where my 5 years of nursing comes in. Pallets are stamped with treatment codes. HT means heat treated, kiln dried at high temperature to kill insects and fungus. That wood is safe. That is what you want. MB means methyl bromide, a pesticide absorbed directly into the wood grain. You do not want to sleep inside walls built from MB pallets. You do not want your children near them. You do not want to burn them in a fire pit and breathe the smoke. Learn those 2 letters before you ever bring a pallet home. Write them on your hand if you have to. HT safe, MB no. Now, 6 to 8 standard pallets will give you the bones of a shelter. Stand them up vertically, fasten the corners with 3-inch screws or heavy gauge zip ties, and you have walls. The floor goes down first, pallets laid flat, or salvaged boards if you have them. The roof is corrugated metal if you can find it, or a tarp pulled tight and angled so water drains away from the opening, not toward it. The whole structure can go up in a day, sometimes less. But here is what most people skip, and it is the part that matters most. The gaps between the slats will kill you, not figuratively. In January, on a night below 20 degrees, wind moving through the gaps in an unfinished pallet wall, strips the heat from your body faster than your body can replace it. You will shiver yourself into exhaustion before morning. And exhaustion in cold is the first step towards something much worse. Your first insulation layer goes on the outside. Cardboard is what most people use. Flattened boxes from recycling bins behind grocery stores, layered like shingles with each row overlapping the one below, so water runs down and off rather than through. Cardboard is a better insulator than it has any right to be. What you are trapping is dead air. Air is a poor conductor of heat. Packed between layers of cellulose, it slows thermal transfer significantly. The same principle as the wool batting Grandmother Loretta stuffed into the gaps between the cellar walls every autumn on this farm. Over the cardboard, you want a moisture barrier. A tarp will work. Heavy plastic sheeting will work. But the thing I have watched builders use on every well-done farm structure in Harlan County, and the thing I would tell anyone to find before anything else, is Tyvek housewrap. It is a professional-grade wind and moisture barrier used in home construction. You can find partial rolls at construction dumpsters, sometimes whole rolls. It is lightweight, waterproof, breathable enough to let moisture vapor escape so it does not rot your wall from the inside, and it will outlast everything else on this list by a decade. The roof wants corrugated metal if you can find it. The same material that covers half the outbuildings in eastern Kentucky covers these shelters too, and for the same reason. It sheds water cleanly, it is rigid enough not to sag under leaf debris or snow load, and it lasts. Angle it away from the door. Let it drain. Now, the floor. The floor is where I see the most mistakes made, and it is the mistake that costs people the most at night. A pallet floor sitting directly on bare ground is not insulation. The ground is not neutral. It is cold and it conducts, and it will pull heat from your body all night without stopping. This is not something you can overcome with a thicker blanket. You have to break the contact. Grandmother Loretta understood this about the root cellar. The floor of the Combs root cellar was never bare dirt. She laid flat field stones first, the heavy, dense kind she and my grandfather pulled from the creek bed one summer before the war, then thick planks over the stones, with an air gap between the earth and the wood surface. That gap was the insulation. Trapped, still air, not moving, not conducting, just sitting there between the cold earth and the warm space above it. In a pallet shelter, you want carpet remnants on the floor, 2 or 3 layers if you can find them. Foam board salvaged from renovation dumpsters is better still. Anything that lifts you off the ground and puts a layer of still air between you and the cold beneath you is an upgrade. Not a small upgrade, a survival upgrade. Now here is the part I want to stop on, because I worked emergency nursing in Lexington for 5 years, and I saw what happens when people get this wrong. Cold does not announce itself. It does not feel dramatic. It comes in increments, degree by degree, while you are asleep. Your body generates somewhere between 75 and 100 watts of heat at rest. That is real energy. Your shelter's job is to trap it. Every gap in the wall, every crack under the door, every inch of uninsulated floor is a place that energy escapes. And once your body cannot produce heat faster than your shelter is losing it, the math starts going the wrong direction. The people who survive winters in these structures figure out something that survival instructors charge good money to teach. Cotton kills in cold weather. It absorbs moisture and holds it against your skin, and wet skin loses heat 25 times faster than dry skin in cold air. I watched a man in the ER in Lexington one February who had been sleeping in a cotton sleeping bag in a car with a broken heater. He thought he was covered. He was not. Wool insulates even when wet. Nothing else I know of does that as reliably. It is why Loretta kept wool batting in the cellar walls. It is why mountain people raise sheep in hollows too steep to grow much of anything else. A wool blanket next to your body on a cold night is doing something a synthetic cannot fully replicate. Find one at a thrift store and keep it. There is a piece of gear I want to mention because the physics behind it is exactly what Loretta already understood. A reflective thermal bivouac, sometimes called a bivvy, works on a principle developed by NASA in the 1960s, a metallic interior lining that reflects infrared radiation back toward its source. Your body radiates heat. The lining bounces it back. You are creating a closed loop. The same principle as a space blanket, but in the form of a lightweight sleeping envelope that blocks wind and sheds moisture on the outside and keeps your own heat cycling back toward you on the inside. No batteries, no fuel, no moving parts, just physics. It folds down small enough to go in a coat pocket, and more than a few people living in these encampments will tell you it is the reason they made it through January. Now let me be honest about what a pallet shelter cannot do, because I will not let you leave here thinking I told you something I did not. It cannot give you running water. It cannot give you a toilet. It will not pass inspection in any city in this country. It violates building codes everywhere, and the Supreme Court ruled in 2024 that cities may now legally fine and arrest people simply for sleeping outside, even when no shelter is available. That ruling made the existence of these structures more complicated and more necessary at the same time. A pallet shelter built with care will keep rain off you. It will cut the wind. It will let your body heat do its job instead of bleeding away into the night. It will give you a door with a latch. It will give you a space that is yours. It will not fix the reason you are sleeping in it. I am not going to say otherwise, and I am not going to tell you this is a solution to what is a problem that is structural, that is generational, that does not have a plywood answer. What I am going to tell you is what I know, that the knowledge of how to build a dry, warm, sound space from found materials is not a desperate improvisation. It is a tradition. And traditions worth keeping do not die. They go quiet, and then they get remembered when the need comes back. Now here is what I want to say about how we lost this, because it matters. There is no money in a person who can build her own shelter from timber she found for free. There is no advertising budget for a material that costs nothing. Nobody is running a commercial for corrugated metal off a dumpster or Tyvek wrap from a construction site, because you cannot build a revenue model around things people find themselves for free. A man named Derek Dedrickson up in Boston built small emergency shelters from salvaged materials for about $200 each. Some of them were 4 square feet. Some were 24. He became well known for it. Now, you will not find his method in any housing policy document. You will not find it in any curriculum, because there is no funding mechanism for teaching people to help themselves in ways that do not involve buying something. My great-grandfather, Ezra Combs, built every outbuilding on this farm with no permit, no plan book, and no materials he did not cut, find, or trade for himself. The smokehouse he built in 1923 with chestnut lumber and tin sheeting from a store that has been closed for 70 years, held through every ice storm and derecho this ridge has seen since. He did not know what a building code was. He knew wood grain, weather direction, and how to read the way water moved off a hillside after rain. My mother's generation was the first to start forgetting. Harlan County got its first real supermarket in 1971. The knowledge that was kept alive by necessity started to feel optional. And optional knowledge, in a world that sells you a more convenient substitute, is knowledge that quietly disappears. Not dramatically, just one generation at a time. A daughter who does not watch her mother pack wool into a wall gap. A son who buys foam insulation in a can instead of learning why the gap needed filling in the first place. The 2024 homelessness count was the highest ever recorded, 18% higher than the year before. And the story behind most of those numbers is not complicated. It is one layoff, one medical bill, one eviction notice on a door that was barely being kept. Roughly half of all Americans live paycheck to paycheck. The distance between a house and a pallet shelter in a parking lot is thinner than most of us want to know. The women in those encampments who know how to insulate a floor, how to layer clothing in the right order, how to angle a tarp so water runs off rather than pools, those women are not extraordinary. They are doing what Appalachian women have always done when the road is out and the store is 3 hours away and there is nobody coming to solve the problem for you. They are doing what Loretta did, what every hollow in these mountains taught its daughters, not as philosophy, but as survival. That is not a conspiracy. That is just what happens when a culture trades a skill for a product, and then the product is not there anymore. They did not hide the knowledge, they just let it go quiet. And quiet does not run a commercial. A woman who knows how to build a dry space from salvaged wood, who knows how to trap her own warmth through a night below freezing, who can feed her children from dried stores and fix a wall with what she finds on a ridge, that woman does not need to ask permission from anyone. So here is what I want you to do. 1. Learn the 2 pallet stamps. HT is safe. MB, you leave where you found it. This takes 30 seconds to memorize, and it matters more than you think. 2. Walk your property or walk your neighborhood and look at what is being discarded. Lumber ends, roofing tin, foam board from a renovation, Tyvek wrap from a new build next door. These are not trash. In 1934, they would have been considered building materials. They still are. 3. Pull out a wool blanket if you have one. If you do not, find one this weekend at a thrift store. Put cotton away for decoration and wool next to your body for warmth. Wool insulates wet. Nothing else does that the same way. 4. Learn the floor principle before you need it. Whatever you sleep on, in a shelter, in a tent, in an emergency, put something between yourself and the cold ground. Carpet, foam board, folded clothing, flat wood with an air gap. Not because it is comfortable, because the ground will take your warmth all night if you let it touch you. 5. Write one thing down this week, something your people knew, something you know, a method, a recipe, a trick that your grandmother or your great aunt or your neighbor with the big garden could have told you in 15 minutes. Write it where someone else can find it, because knowledge that lives only inside one head can be gone by Tuesday. Until then, go find one pallet this week, turn it over and read the stamp, and then look at it again and see what Ezra Combs would have seen. A wall, a floor, a starting point. Tell me in the comments, did your family ever build something from found or salvaged materials? A corn crib, a root cellar, a smokehouse, a barn, a fence line, a chicken house? Tell me where it was and what it was made of. Because the women who kept this country alive through hard winters and harder years knew things we are only just beginning to remember. Don't let it die with a generation.